Japan has begun illegally dumping tons of nuclear-contaminated water into the Pacific Ocean. What's happening, and why is the Western media criticizing China instead? Let's start with a bit of background. In 2011, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant was overwhelmed by a 15-meter tsunami. This was widely called the world's worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. The plant now hosts over 1,000 tanks of water that have touched nuclear reactor cores and nuclear fuel. On August 24th, Japan announced it would begin treating and releasing the 1.3 million tons of water into the Pacific Ocean over the course of 30 years. Even with the water treatment, radioactive materials can enter marine life, settle on the ocean floor, and travel up the food chain. There's outrage across the Pacific over the shared future of the ocean and people's well-being. So far, the Chinese government is openly condemning the dumping and restricting seafood imports from Japan. Polls show a majority of South Koreans are also worried, and many across Asia have protested. Fishing groups and residents within Japan have even launched a lawsuit. The Japanese and Western media paints this outrage as unscientific and unfounded. But let's go over the details. Firstly, the Japanese government and the Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, which operated the Fukushima plant, went to lengths to promote the narrative that this is just regular nuclear plant wastewater. It's not. This water came in direct contact with nuclear fuel. Second, their claim that this release is approved by the International Atomic Energy Association is shaky. The association let TEPCO and the Japanese government control all the water sampling and data collection, so there's no independent third-party analysis. Third, out of all of the radioactive materials, there's a singular media focus on tritium, but others like carbon-14, strontium-90, and iodine-129 also aren't filtered out during the water treatment. Global scientists emphasize that their impacts need to be thoroughly investigated. TEPCO's track record of cover-ups also cast doubt on how they'll responsibly carry out the whole release project. They hid records of safety concerns at Fukushima and failed to prepare staff prior to the 2011 disaster. And what makes this even more maddening is that there are safer alternatives for dealing with this contaminated water, including vapor release and underground burial. Discharging into the ocean just happened to be the cheapest option. It's no surprise that people are skeptical, enraged, and demanding other solutions. Despite that, the US government says it would support Japan if it takes China to the World Trade Organization over the seafood ban. US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy spoke at the US Embassy in Tokyo about how China is slinging lies and calling the import ban, quote, economic coercion. Rahm Emanuel, US Ambassador for Japan, even made a show of flying there to eat Fukushima fish last week. This strong defense of Japan and TEPCO's water release project comes just weeks after Biden hosted a conference with leaders of Japan and South Korea at Camp David. The August conference cemented military and economic cooperation between the US, Japan, and South Korea, listing China as a key threat. Instead of acknowledging the reckless nuclear dumping at Fukushima and bringing to light other solutions, the US and new Cold War-aligned countries are pushing forward with their dangerous geopolitics. The water release project just began. What better time is there than now to turn around and prioritize our oceans over the war alliances?